Good afternoon. It's Friday, October the 13th. Yes, that's what I said. If you've got a problem with that, it's going to be a long afternoon for you. I'm Dave Thompson. I'm the director of the Academy of Cleaning Excellence. Each and every Friday afternoon, I have three words that I focus on: healthy, positive, and proactive. Today, my message is not going to be any different. I'm going to be joined on Skype here in just a few more moments by Matt Gornick. Our conversation this afternoon is going to be revolving around technology that is available to the cleaning industry today. We're trying to move our paper programs from the 20th century, into the 21st century and start using those smart devices, kind of like this one here that we all have. And we're going to have our information at our fingertips 24/7. So I guess without further ado, Matt, are you on the phone with us?
Yes. Hi, Dave.
Good. I'm glad you're here with us. This technology, I'm still learning it. I've been doing it all year, but hey, just like what we're going to talk about today, it's new to me as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
So tell our audience a little bit about yourself, how you came to the cleaning industry, and why they should listen today.
Certainly. So as you mentioned, I'm Matt. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Orange QC. We provide refreshingly simple inspection and issue tracking software for the facilities industry. So we serve everyone from universities to building service contractors to airports, hospitals, you name it. Use and depend on us to provide quality data to their facilities.
Cool. How long has QC been out?
We started the company back in 2009. And so you had kind of talked about some of these newer devices. A lot of that stuff was really in its infancy, even back then. And what we've kind of seen since 2009 all the way to present day is there's this really big shift that's essentially happened in the industry. Everyone's got smartphones, or more or less everyone's got smartphones, iPads. People are comfortable using applications. People want to embrace the technology. And so it's kind of been a journey, even for us, starting out not having a lot of folks embracing technology right off the bat. And now it's, a lot of folks that are coming to us already having all the pieces there and ready and raring to go. I
think one of the interesting things as you were talking there, I was thinking about myself, you think of companies that today, if you've just started in the last decade, that doesn't mean you're really new. That means that you've got some good technology behind you. I remember whenever we didn't know what an app was. But now everybody knows what an app is. You don't have to explain that anymore.
Right. No, that's so true. So true.
So we all have a lot of data that we create. We've done this for centuries, actually. And we're not, I don't even have pockets on my shirt anymore. My dad used to run around with the pencil holder.
Right.
Data is a different way of doing things today.
Right, 100%. And the industry has shifted really from kind of its infancy of really just dabbling in some of the technology and collecting some of the data to now really becoming more data-driven overall, and using that data to be more competitive, to provide better services, to provide better insights to your team and prioritize those things. And so it's the data that's now really running a lot of these decisions rather than kind of guesswork, which you might have thought back in the past.
Well, I think data always has. We just haven't been using it as efficiently as we are today.
100%. Oh, that's without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's as we've always been talking and advocating for. It's affected pretty much every part of an organization. You've got team training, employee evaluations, performance. Really even looking at, if you're serving facilities, hey, what are those hotspot areas? Hey, what are the things that we need to be looking at next week, next month, next semester that are going to have those greatest impacts on quality? And it's really that difference between hoping you've got a firm grasp on that data versus knowing it and confidently knowing it.
Hey, I can tell you, Matt, now I know this may go back a little bit for you, but in the 80s, I was a building service contractor. Mm-hmm. And I know that I had that hoping everything was running smoothly. Yes. And I got those phone calls at like 7 o'clock in the morning finding out, it wasn't.
Right. No, that's without a doubt, for sure.
So things have changed, and the competitive advantage today is much closer. It's a narrower, so we've got to use the data differently.
you've got to use the data differently. And I always use this example. We heard from one of our building service contractor clients that they were going into bid on a fairly large retail, multi-location retail space. And instead of just showing up to a presentation or trying to meet with the client like they may have done in the past, they actually went out and inspected those facilities that they would be servicing. And now you're coming in with actual hard data. Hey, here's what our competitor, here's what your current service provider is doing. Here's our averages. Here's our tracking. Here's our quality control process. Now you're coming into a conversation armed with data rather than sometimes bells and whistles and sometimes sales tactics. Now you have data to back up your quality. And we're seeing that just time and time again. You're seeing that story replicated time and time again where people are using that information as really an advantage, winning new contracts, winning new services.
So what you're saying there, Matt, is that they were using data that they had found about their competitor on a job bid that they wanted.
Yes.
Oh, that's sweet. You know, I used to, well, I'm not going to tell you what I used to do, but we used to do the same thing. It was called a secret shopper. We'd go in and shop what they were doing. But we did, you know, we were still there with a not chalkboard, but with a pencil and a pad.
Right. Right. No, it's true. And you know, that's happening today. It's in what, if you were, you know, the head of a facility, what would you say when someone comes and says, hey, we're, you know, scoring your facility at a 75%, but on average, and we've got the data to back it up, we perform between a 90 and 95%. And
then how do you know, if I was a facility manager, I would want to go, okay, so how do you do that?
Right, exactly. Now that's where the conversation gets started. But now you've got the data to back up your quality claims, and you've got analytics that supports that.
So we're talking also about budgets. I don't care whether you're in-house or you're a facility contractor, you're still talking about budgets.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the budgets, we hear this time and time again, a lot of, especially folks in the educational space, budgets getting cut back, but the expectation and frequency and things, they stay the same. Budgets
they're going higher because, yeah.
And they want you to do more work with less resources. And so how do you measure the change in quality based upon your budget? You know, you have to have a quality control process and inspection process in place to know how those changes affect in order to even guide what those expectations should be.
Well, it still goes back to what we've said for a very long time. And our grandparents, our parents said, you know, I can only manage what I can measure. And it's now you're talking about how are we measuring so that we can efficiently manage that.
Correct.
It's just different. It's as we said, it's 24/7 now. I don't have time to wait for you to get back to me next week.
Right. Right. The nature of the business and the environment now is that you need the data in real time. Waiting for it to arrive on paper, those days are long gone. And it's that feedback loop. We've got to do it quick. You've got to do it quick. You've got to do it quick, and it's measuring really, as you know, we have talked about, you know, those expectations versus the actual. How do you set your baseline? How do you set your benchmark, and then actually see if you're hitting that? You know, we've certainly at the beginning of when we first got started, you know, a lot of teams would sort of have these just kind of mental pictures of their expectations, but they weren't formalized. And then when they put it down in paper, it was like, oh no, we can't do that. Right, exactly. So it's you know, this whole quality control process that we're seeing and happening in the industry is really a documentation of what your expectations are, so that could be shared with your team, your stakeholders, your customers, your entire organization, and then measuring your actual results against your expectations. So something comes to mind. It's a live show, so hey, I apologize, Matt, if this catches you off guard. But you know, I was thinking, you know, does the data then change where those expectation levels were? Because now I know I did something differently. Since you started this, have people changed that? Oh, without a doubt. I mean, expectations change, process changes. You know, we just got back from one of the APA conferences recently, and there was a few talks on how everything changed. Their whole expectation, their workflow, their training changes because once they started documenting what the actual expectations are and made sure that was clear, you actually go back, like we were saying, hey, you know, this particular part doesn't actually make sense, or hey, this is out of the scope of work that's defined for us, or maybe we don't have the proper training in place to actually support this type of expectation or level. And so then now that you are looking at it more seriously and obviously documenting this process, now you've got this feedback loop even to set expectations and know what is possible, what's not possible, or if it's possible, what do you need to do to get to that point?
So this is minimizing excuses as well.
100%. Yeah,
I mean, because people will come up with all kinds of excuses. I know you've heard it. I know I hear it. People say what?
I mean, the most common excuse that we ever hear is that we're too busy. Plain and simple. We're too busy. We're too busy to implement a process, to think about it. There's too many fires that we're trying to put out. But at the end of the day, when you hear about we're too busy, we've always, even internally at Orange QC, we've changed that terminology. We're not allowed to say we're too busy to do something. But what we have to say instead is it's not a priority. And so this way it actually changes the conversation. So if you could say it is not a priority for us to implement a quality control process, which is going to help us provide better quality to our team, our clients, our stakeholders. If you're comfortable saying that, then that's maybe your excuse. But now you use that as a way of saying, okay, the too busy is not a good excuse, because once you properly prioritize what are those critical pieces in your organization, you're going to see you need to do that in order to even cut down on the busyness.
I think you're talking in language that I am. We're in the education market. You're in the data retrieval and reporting market. But, that still applies because everybody wants to know, is it just right? I don't want to get involved until it's just right.
Right. And that would really be what we'd call kind of our second top excuse here, which is you're really waiting for the 100% perfect pie in the sky process. And
have you found it yet?
I don't think anyone's found it. And really the secret behind it is that your process is a journey. So you want to set, your pie in the sky goal as kind of your ideal place, but that's going to always be shifting. The goalpost should always be moving further and further back, and try to move your whole team forward. And we use the example oftentimes of when teams will start talking to us about waiting for the perfect ideal process. You're on a bicycle right now. You've got a bicycle as your kind of mode of transportation here, and you're really looking at that nice Cadillac or fancy car. But there's one little thing about it. You don't like the interior. You don't like the radio. You don't like speakers, and that alone prevents you from kind of making that leap really into that better process and that better tool. And so we're very big advocates for getting started. Get started is really the theme, and use that kind of starting point to springboard your process to get going into your eventual goal of having that one day perfect process. But you got to start somewhere, or else you're never going to get to that perfect.
Are we actually ever going to achieve 100%? Is this a possible thing, or because I am always saying I can always improve. I don't think I've ever reached 100% on anything.
Right. I mean, you should always be moving the goalposts further and further back, always. And so if way down the line after you've gotten started and you're running a really high performance and world-class team, you certainly are going to be moving higher and higher up, and maybe considering or other folks looking at your team would say, wow, they're really operating at 100%. But you internally with your team, it should be constant improvement. There were always improvements to make. There's always efficiencies to be gained. So moving those goalposts back is really the kind of mantra and recommendation that we always share with folks. Okay,
so when should somebody get involved? Is it when they find a program that meets 40% of their needs, 30%, 80%? What have you found in data retrieval and reporting is that kind of magic number where, okay, this one's quality enough, I can get involved?
Yeah. So everything that you'd be doing from a data standpoint would be better doing it using some sort of specialized tool, and especially if you're not doing inspections or doing it in a process anyway.
So in other words,
start right away. In
other words, we're just saying if you can just get from the pen and the paper, move to Excel. But if you've been using Excel, move to a mobile app.
Right.
Just do something to move the bar along.
And that's where you're going to have your greatest change in improvement is at those junctures where you're changing the process and kind of upgrading you and your team to that new tooling, to that new process. And so the hold up by and large of what we hear is that folks will say, hey, I'm on paper today, much like we're talking about the bike versus Cadillac. We're on paper today, but we want this whiz bang 100% process down the line. And we're going to prevent ourselves from starting because it doesn't do, a million other things or things that we haven't thought of, or are we going to make the right decision or not? So we always say if you could get 80% of the way there of your kind of key items that you really want to improve within your organization, and a tool or process checks those boxes, get started. Get started with that 80%, and then work on the 20% and evolve your process towards that.
I don't use 80% of this phone still yet. Right. I don't know all of the features, but that doesn't keep me from using it and carrying it and living with it.
Yes.
And I wouldn't give it up.
It's true.
Yeah, but I don't use 80% of it, but still, and I think I appreciate what you're saying is because I hear this all the time too. I think it's trying to move yourself forward and looking what other people are doing. How are they doing it? And in a competitive market that is getting closer and closer, and I don't care what category you're in, it is.
It is 100%. And it's that ability to measure and see what's happening. That's really going to start separating what we call world-class teams. You got your world-class teams and kind of regular teams that are really getting started maybe with their process, or they're using paper and kind of looking to the future and seeing what they're going to be doing. The big real two themes that we're seeing in the market from world-class teams. There's a difference between this methodology of inspect to correct versus inspect to prevent. Completely different model, completely different mindset. So inspect to correct.
One's a positive, one's a reactive.
Yeah, and so we see this time and time again, and it's not the fault, folks, when they're getting started. Oftentimes you're going to start in an inspect to correct mindset because that's what makes sense. We've noticed these deficiencies. Now we're sending out a crew to correct those deficiencies. And so it's inspect, correct, back, forth. What is now happening in the market and for these world-class teams is you're still doing inspections, but now you're using the data to inform changes within your team. So instead of very reactionary, kind of a feedback loop, now you're looking at a very proactive feedback loop. So,
I love it when you hit my words. I love it when you hit my words, Matt. Thank you.
Exactly. And so now you're being proactive. And so under this inspect to prevent or quality management model, you're using the data to prioritize and inform changes to your process, training, et cetera. You're going to do a root cause analysis. You're going to do corrective and preventative action. You are looking for the root cause of those issues so that you stop them out at the root source rather than just going back and forth trying to correct them kind of in an ad hoc fashion. And so, there was a great talk a few weeks back at one of the APA conferences that they talked about this particular part, going down to the root source of those issues. And we're talking about earlier, folks being too busy and things like that. But that's where you get those time savings. That's where you get those big wins, because once you've corrected and really codified your process to make sure those things don't happen in the future, that's where you pick up these huge gains. Now you're not babysitting the process. Now you've got something that's working repeatedly, and now that's going to inform and give you time and better quality within all those facilities.
It's not that we don't have data. We do. It's not that we aren't wanting to use it. We do. But we're not doing either one of those efficiently. I think the thing that you're saying and that I hear you're repeating several times is just plain get started.
Yes.
And as you do, you'll move the bar naturally. Things will change. Is this what we call organic?
Yes. It will organically evolve and develop. And that's, without a doubt, our key takeaway. Every time we talk to someone new, the ideal point of where to get going is right now. Get started. The present day is the best time to get started. And then evolve your process. And it will organically develop. You're going to get feedback from your team, your stakeholders, your customers, and that's what's going to help you become a better team.
Matt, I can tell you that a year ago I was introduced to your product, and now I teach your product. And and that's a perfect example of, I just started using it. I started looking at, am I 100% proficient with it? Absolutely not. But people that come to our classes are using the program, are getting better with it. And I'm learning more about what the technology can. And not only your platform, but there's other platforms out there that people may already have. So it's compare the platforms, look at where you want to move to. Get started.
100% get started.
Matt, how can they get hold of what you have?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to learn a little bit more about what we do, or quality control process, we've got a lot of documentation, and even kind of
come to us.
You can certainly talk to Dave, but you could also visit us, orangeqc.com.
Matt, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it, even on Friday the 13th.
Yes, thank you so much, Dave.
Okay, so if you're looking for professional development education, like what we've been talking about, we have 5 locations. Our academy locations are in Atlanta. We have those also here in Florida at Tampa, Lakeland, Kissimmee, and right here in Orlando. Our website is academyofcleaning.com. Visit that site. You're going to find our live classes, our online classes, and even our upcoming master certification cruise that we're going to be doing to the Bahamas. Now, we also have all of the social media pages, just like we all do, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Go to any one of those, see what we're doing, like and share our pages. That's going to help all of us. I appreciate Matt coming on today. And just to let you know, folks, we're going to be closing out our season here at the end of October. So Daryl Hicks is going to be back on the show with me to help me close out the season, our last guest speaker. And then I'll give you a recap and kind of give you some insights as to what we're going to do next year. So until the show is live next Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. right here from Orlando, I'm Dave Thompson. Keep changing your future. Keep those changes healthy, positive, and proactive. And remember my mantra, I am a janitor and I save lives. Thanks for watching.